What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Came across this video, thought it was an interesting video. Americans shouldn't be called American, and I always say this, just simply because we have America, we have South America, North America, South America, which consists of more than one continent. So I know some people probably don't want to be associated with being called an American, but that's just like I checked out a video just earlier, and it was like Canada, like the best place to live outside of America, and it had Canada on there, and I'm like, isn't Canada part of North America? People, I guess Canadians don't associate themselves with America, but we finna check this out, see what it's about. Y'all hit that subscribe button, send down those recommendations.
Comment, like, subscribe. The bell keeps you notified. It helps the show thrive. A demonym is the name we use to denote someone being native to a particular part of the world. It derives from demos and nym, which mean people and name respectively. This is why we see demo appear in other terms relating to people, like demographic and democracy. And of course, nym pops up at the end of countless words relating to names, like endonym, hypernym, and aptronym. Demonyms can be used for any location, from small villages to huge cities. They are, however, most deeply linked with the names we use to refer to people from specific countries. When it comes to countries, there are familiar ways in which their demonyms are formed in English. You usually take the country's name and then adapt the end of it using a specific suffix, with the three most popular being the an, is, and ish suffixes. For example, people from Colombia are Colombian, people from Senegal are Senegalese, and people from Spain are Spanish. And yeah, this is how we also form a lot of language names if you didn't notice. Some countries, however, don't use these suffixes when creating their demonyms. The I suffix is used at times, especially with stan nations like Pakistani or Kazakhstani, and then France has its unique one of just French. Some country demonyms, however, sound nothing like the country they relate to. The best example is the Netherlands. People from this country are...
Which is interesting. It's very interesting because, like, I think all this, it should include, like, the language, too, because I was trying to figure out, I think, was it Belgium? I was trying to figure out what language I guess it would be Belgians? Are they called Belgians? Is that the demonym name? But I was like, wait, what language is that? I was like, okay, they got the Netherlands, Germany, and France behind, around them. So I was like, I never do that language. I think languages can be
they're instead
included
called
too.
Dutch. And while the official demonym for someone from New Zealand is a New Zealander, the colloquial Kiwi is far more popular. If you are curious as to where these more unique terms come from,
I need to check these out. Why is the Kiwi named for a fruit, bird, and people? What? That's interesting.
We have videos explaining them in detail created in years gone by. While these terms might be completely different to the country's names, they aren't ever debated. People know Dutch relates to the Netherlands despite the difference. But one of the most popularly heard demonyms has to be the one used to refer to people from one of the biggest and most culturally influential nations on our globe, the United States of America. The demonym for people from the United States of America is, of course, American. This demonym comes from the latter word in the USA's name, which in turn comes from explorer Amerigo Vespucci, who is seen as being the first European to not see the New World as part of Asia, but rather its own landmass. This demonym does make logical sense at first. The country is the United States of America, so why not call the citizens American? Though there is something of an issue with this ever-present demonym. The United States of America is not the only landmass on our planet with the word America in its name. Granted, no other nations use the word America, but the word is used in the name of the continent in which the nation of the USA resides on, North America. Not only this, but the continent to this continent's south also has the word America in its name too, South America.
So wouldn't we be United Statesians with a C, Statesians?
Collectively, these two continents are referred to as the Americas, and some people see them as just one continent instead of two. These two continents include other nations such as Mexico, Argentina, Canada, Honduras, Venezuela, Cuba, Guatemala, and so on. While these countries might not have America in their name, we could still use the demonym America for them as they are on the American continents. This means that their citizens could be called American too, and many have argued that this could be the case. It's a really valid argument. Using a continent's demonym to refer to people from different nations on that continent is no new thing. We collectively call people from countries like Germany, Poland, Romania, and the UK European. So why not use the collective demonym of American for people from countries?
I ain't gonna lie, I used to say this, and it's safe because, like, when it comes to Asia, so say for instance, you got North Korea, you got Japan, and you got China. Sometimes I don't know the difference, so sometimes the safest thing is to say Asian because, you know, they're part of that, you know, that continent from where they're from. But I think sometimes it's safe. It's a safe way because you just don't want to guess and stereotype people. I think that's probably why you just call it where, you know, based on the continent, because you don't want to stereotype. But then again, once you get to South America, it's like the stereotypes come because you're not just going to automatically say Americans, you know?
She's on the continents of North and South America. Well, the term American has become deeply entrenched with just the nation of the USA. This has really shaped the image of what it means to refer to yourself as American. It's an image people from other American countries like Canada and Paraguay might not actually want. The USA's claim over the demonym of American might not seem all that fair to some, however, and people from the USA started to refer to themselves as American kind of gradually over time. By the late 18th century, it was in more widespread use, and the 1795 Treaty of Peace and Amity with the Barbary States uses the term American citizens to refer to those from the USA. Though, while it might seem unfair, it is very understandable how American ended up becoming the go-to demonym for those from the USA. Demonyms are usually created to clearly signpost what they are referring to. Out of the 4 words that make up the name United States of America, the word America is definitely the most distinctive. The other 3 words of United States
I feel like they just repped it more. They start repping America more.
Aren't unique to this country and wouldn't have made anywhere near as distinct demonyms for the USA to use. But as mentioned, this demonym really isn't too fair because it can apply to everyone from the continents of North and South America. A great analogy would be if the demonym for people from South Africa was just African. This wouldn't be too fair as everyone from the continent of Africa has the right to be called African. The correct demonym for South Africa is South African, by the way. And if you're wondering, people from the Central African Republic are called Central African. So here I am banging on saying we shouldn't be using the term American for people from the USA, but I'm not really giving you any alternatives, am I? So if
are there any alternatives
from the USA American, what should we be calling them instead? Well, there have been all kinds of alternative suggestions in place of American. One of the more simple alternatives is US American.
Okay,
sometimes not high.
See, I hear that often. I understand that. That makes more sense.
American.
That's a good.
One of the more simple alternatives is US American,
good
sometimes not hyphenated. Another one was popularized by architect Frank Lloyd Wright, that being the term USonian. This isn't only used to refer to people from the USA, but is found used to refer to a specific style that is distinctly American. Writer H.L. Mencken was a scholar of how the English language evolved in the United States, and over his career he compiled a selection of alternative demonyms for the USA he found in use. This includes Columbian, Columbard, Fredonian, 3D, Unisian, United Statesian, Colonican, Appalachian, Usian, Washingtonian, USian, USian, Usican, and United Stater.
United Stater, that's a funny one. These are interesting. Washingtonian, what?
USian, USian, Usican, and United Stater. He also discovered some other terms which apply to a wider area of land in the USA, including Western Hemispherian, New Worlder, and North Atlantican. While these terms are pretty interesting, none of them have found widespread use or even attempted to usurp American. A term that has made something of a dent, however, is Yankee. However, this term has its own history, and many don't see it as referring to to all Americans.
That's just New York
Once again,
area.
this is a name we have delved into before.
Yanks.
What's pretty interesting is how other languages aside from English deal with this demonym. Lots of other languages simply use their version of the word American, like the French American, the Italian Americano, the Japanese Americajin, and even the Hindi Amriki. This isn't the case across all languages.
Yeah, I feel like we ain't got no good options. The U.S. The only thing that's probably a good alternative is U.S. Americans. All these other ones, they kind of like...
However, most noticeably, the Spanish language has demonyms that aren't just American in their tongue. This includes estadounidense, which roughly translates into United Statesian. There's also Norteamericano and Norteamericana, which are male and female forms of the terms North American. Brazilian Portuguese also has a Norteamericano and estadounidense, which come from North American and United States respectively too. It makes a lot of sense why these languages would have more unique words for people from the USA. These are the two most spoken languages in South and Central America and could be affected by the aforementioned demonym confusion. So these Americans might want a more unique term for people from the United States. Though I've also read that these terms aren't actually used that much on a day-to-day basis. Let me know if you come from a Spanish-speaking part of the world or Brazil if you use them or not. The USA, however, isn't the only nation to suffer from a demonym issue though. This is primarily because the USA isn't the only nation on our planet to include the word United in its name. This seems to be where issues arise. Here in the United Kingdom, the official demonym is British. Like the demonym of American for the USA, this creates issues too. Though, funnily enough, it's kind of the opposite issue. Where American can refer to people beyond the borders of the USA, the demonym of British doesn't particularly include...
I've seen a video where the United States were taking a lot of stuff. Maybe they took the United from United Kingdom.
But the people beyond the borders of the USA, the demonym of British doesn't particularly include everyone within the borders of the UK. British as a word comes from Britain/Great Britain. This is the name for the geographic island which homes England, Wales and Scotland. Northern Ireland, however, which is part of the UK, isn't on the island of Great Britain. So referring to UK citizens in Northern Ireland as British isn't quite correct and opens up a whole other can of worms. Though I guess an argument could be made that the demonym of British doesn't refer to the island of Great Britain, but rather the British Isles as a whole. This is a term used to refer to the island of Great Britain and its surrounding islands. However, this term isn't really accepted by all, and British Isles includes places that are not part of the UK, like the rest of Ireland and the Isle of Man, which takes us back to the issue American has, in which the term applies to more than just that one nation. Plus, I get the idea that a lot of people from Ireland and the Isle of Man wouldn't really want to be called British. And speaking of the Isle of Man, which yes isn't part of the UK but a crown dependency, it has a really unique demonym of Manx. It's not Manish or Manese or anything like that. A solution to this problem here in the UK is to not use British and instead use demonyms for the specific countries within the UK, such as English, Welsh, Scottish and Northern Irish. This is also a solution that people in the USA could and can use too. Each state within the USA has its own demonym.
Texan,
if people don't want to use American for one reason or another, they could use the demonym for their state, such as Californian, Texan, Mainer, and the really fun term of
Floridian, Louisianian, Arkansas. I mean, Texan makes sense. Hoosier. Yeah, because Indiana Hoosiers. It's hard for me to say that. Hoosiers. New Yorker. Yeah, I mean, they can be the Yanks. The Yankees are there. Pennsylvanian, Virginian, Nebraskan. Okay, that makes Californian. Yeah, California. New Mexican, Arizonan, Nevadan. Some of these are not good. Texans makes a lot of sense, though. You know, I'm Texan out
someone
here.
from Indiana, which
Alaskan, Alaskan makes sense. Yeah.
While using these
Hawaiian
demonyms in the USA and UK make things a tad less complicated, they don't resolve the issue that both nations suffer of having a demonym that covers the entire nation. That doesn't cause a headache. There is, however, a third nation with United in its name, that being the United Arab Emirates. An emirate, for the record, is a kind of territory like a state or a kingdom. The UAE is made up of 7 of them. The demonym for someone from the United Arab Emirates is Emirati. I find this so fascinating because, unlike the USA or UK, their demonym derives from the kind of territory that makes up the nation. This would be like if the USA's demonym was Statian, or the UK's Kingdomish. While those might sound a tad silly now, the word of Emirati shows us that these kinds of demonyms can exist. While the title of this video might be a tad provocative, sometimes you have to push the boat out to engage with people, there could be some validity to it. Perhaps one day in the future, Americans won't be called American.
US American. I mean, US Americans make sense to me.
Name explained depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel.
Shout out to the Patreons, man. Shout out to his Patreons. That's a lot, boy. I thought my eyes was like messing up for a minute. But, no, yeah, I like this. Americans shouldn't be called Americans. You know, America is more than one continent, more than one country. So, but US Americans make sense. All that other stuff, I don't know. Some of us, like, I don't know who that guy was that was throwing them ideas out there, but sheesh, those didn't work. Those ain't working. But like I said, usually say American. I don't feel like no other country, like I said, Canada, I don't think they associate themselves so much with American, considered American, you know, even though it's in, you know, I may be wrong. If you're Canadian, I'm sorry, you know, I may be wrong. I know in South America, you know, they, like you said, Colombian. I don't know what Argentina would be. Chilean, you know, Brazilian. So it's like they don't use that American. But all in all, good video. Good video. Makes sense. But yeah, some of those don't work. But that's all I have. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Do you got a demonym for America? What makes sense to you? Hit that subscribe button and be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.